reduce the supply for sale. So, which will be also placing upward pressure on the British pound. The pound will appreciate due to these market forces, and then people are better off to consume their home country's goods, right? So in fixed exchange rate system, UK pound is not allowed to increase or decrease, right? Or increase or decrease only in a narrow bound. So in this case, there is no boundary. They can appreciate, they can depreciate, whatever is the market condition. So this appreciation will make British goods more expensive, even though the inflation in British is not much high, but even then, the British goods is going to be more expensive for UK customers as well. Even though British producers did not raise their prices as well, because the conversion rate is so high, it will be more expensive for US consumer to buy British goods. So the higher prices will simply be due to pounds appreciation. That is, a greater number of US dollars are required to buy same number of pounds as before. So disadvantages are it can adversely affect a country that already is going through high unemployment and that already has high inflation as well. So if you don't understand that, let's take the example here. The same example with US and UK, we have only two countries and they are interacting with each other. So if the United States experience high inflation, the dollar may weaken, right? So we already know the concept. The country who is experiencing high inflation, its currency will go down. So thereby insulating the United Kingdom from inflation. So inflation in the Britain in the Britain is not that higher because of United States, because they are using floating exchange rate system. If they are using fixed exchange rate system, then inflation in British gonna be increased due to inflation in US. So from US perspective, however, a weaker dollar causes import prices to be higher, right? If they are importing, then the price of those imports is going to be higher. This can increase the price of US materials, supplies, which will turn in increased US goods or prices of the finished goods, right? In addition, higher foreign prices can force US consumers to purchase domestic products as well. So if from inflation was higher in US, so US dollar will go down because inflation in US is higher. What happened? Imports is going to be decreased. Why? Because prices are going up. But what if US is buying raw material, which are integral part of its US products? Then they have no option. Then they have no other options to buy from UK. So what happened to their input prices? If input prices is increased, then of course their prices are also, the final good prices also increased. So as US producers recognize that their foreign competition has been reduced due to weak dollar, they can more easily raise their prices without losing their customer to foreign competitors. Although the price of the UK products looks cheaper, so they have to decrease their price to cope up with the competition as well, and in that case they will be losing more money. And now, managed floating exchange rate system. So up till now, any question regarding fixed and managed, a fixed and free floating exchange rate system? The advantages and disadvantages of fixed exchange rate system is that you can plan better, but the and you are insulated or you are not having any currency risk. But the disadvantage is that the high inflation will be exported to other countries, and also the unemployment also going to be exported to other countries. In free floating system, although we cope up with this unemployment and this inflation stuff, but still, if we are already having a high inflation and high unemployment, then our country will be adversely affected by this free floating exchange rate system. So what is the managed exchange rate system, in which there is government involved? So governments sometimes intervene to prevent their currencies from moving too far. What if somebody or you can say that there is economic war? So I'm going to give you some example. I think in after World War II, the Americans, they also beat the Russia through economic war as well. So at that time, they flowed too much, currencies. Uh, you know, the thing was that they managed the Russian currencies to depreciate, so much. In that era, the people don't trust the government currency, rather they trust the cigarette. So the means of exchange became cigarette, because they don't trust the money at that time because there is too much depreciation. So the value that would at that time people trade cigarettes. For example, 3 cigarettes for a 1 liter of milk, or 4 cigarettes for a one bag of bread or something. So it can be used for other purposes as well. So that's why governments are needed, so that it may not move too far in certain direction. For example, right now the dollar and yuan is 7, so maybe something happen and it will go to like 107 yuan per dollar. Then the country is adversely affected by this, right? So that's why governments are sometimes needed. So the critics, it suggests that managed float allows a government to manipulate exchange rate system as well. Of course, like US is accusing China that they have artificially inflated their, or artificially managed their yuan. They should increase the value of yuan so that our current account deficit, which has crossed $400 billion, it should be reduced, right? Why? Because government intervene it and manage this. $1 is equal to 7 yuan. So criticism explained. We also talked in that chapter 4 as well, but let's talk about here in detail that a government may attempt to weaken its currency to stimulate a stagnant economy, right? So that they produce more and they export more. The increased aggregate demand for its product that result from such policy may reflect a decrease in aggregate demand for the products in other countries as well, as the weakened currency attracts foreign demand, right? So when you decrease the currency, your exports going to rise and your imports going to decrease, and you stimulate the country through economic boom. Right now the China is experiencing, previously this policy is enjoyed by Japanese, and now what happened, their economy is like, we call this stagnant. Why? Because now they cannot stimulate it. Why? Because they already decreased their yen to the lowest point. We'll talk about the case of Japan in our the intervention through the central bank heading over there. If I forgot, please remind me over there that, sir, you need to discuss about the Japanese over there. So, although this criticism is valid, but it could apply as well in the fixed exchange rate system, because government can then pass the bill through its cabinet that we are devaluing our currency, right? So whether you are devaluing it through managed floating exchange rate system or whether you are devaluing it through fixed exchange rate system, both systems provide a valid reason. So currencies of most large developed countries are allowed to float, although they may be periodically managed by their respective central bank. They allow the band, and if they move out through band, then the central bank intervene, and through their, you can say that intervention through, we can right now like T-bills, treasury bills, or through bonds, or through asking the commercial banks to reduce the lending or whatsoever, they control the managed float rate system. We'll talk about how they can do that through direct intervention and indirect intervention in our coming slides. So this exhibit 6.1 is telling you that which country is going through floating exchange rate system. It may be changed because this book is 2000, I think 10 or maybe 2009 edition. So here, countries: Afghanistan, Argentina, Australia, Bolivia, Brazil. So their currency names, and they are using floating rate system. And now the pegged exchange rate system. Peg mean when you attach something to your currency. So home currency is valued pegged to one foreign currency or an index of currencies. Index of currencies mean you have a pool for dollar, pound, yen, yuan, euro, and you, for example, this is Mexican peso. You pegged or you attach your currency with index, with a pool of this one, or just attach it to the dollar. If dollar move upward, your currency move upward. If dollars go down, your currency go down. We call this pegging. Now question is, why a country do that? Anyone who wants to share thoughts on this?
Maybe US is the biggest partner
In what?
in exportation and imports and exports.
Exportation and importation, right?
Yep, maybe.
Your answer is like this. Up to a certain point, it's right. But you can say, in other words, the US dollar is more stable, right?
Yes, 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 definitely.
If you want to say this, then you are right.